Martin Show here on a Tuesday night. I am Buddy Martin, the program heard regularly right here on this channel. It's Tuesday night. That means one thing. David Whitley, our sardonic commentator from the Gainesville Sun, joins the program tonight. And special news tonight. They've got a new leader in the clubhouse over at Florida Victorious, a guy that we know quite well, Freddie Wehbe. Freddie Wehbe, yes, that's Freddie Wehbe, the same guy who runs Spurrier's Ground Grill. And he'll be on the show with Nate Barbera, the CEO of Florida Victorious. All that plus David and later on Lauren Meadows right here on the Buddy Martin Show tonight. Keep it right here.
Time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Voice night, one on camera, one not. I'm Buddy Martin. The hidden one is over here in Brendan Martin. He's about to put himself on the screen, I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, we got a good show for you. We're going to go right to the orange and blue blood room when we can. There he is. He's already out. He's out. He's on it tonight. David Whitley. Hi, David.
Hello. I'm by myself. I don't have my trusty sidekick, Brendan Whitley, with me.
Okay. Well, listen. You're okay. You don't need them. You can carry your own water. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, here's some exciting news tonight that we can, I won't say break because it's been out, but lately we are kind of breaking it. We've complained about the lack of leadership about the fundraising arm of Florida, which has had nothing but seemed like woes since they started in the Jaden Rashada episode. And we talked about getting the word out. Well, the word is out, and tonight we're going to tell you the guy who's doing it is the same guy who has made a huge hit out of the restaurant called Spurrier's Ground Grill, Freddie Wehbe, one of the brightest minds I know. This gives me hope, David, that maybe Florida Victorious might be able to get off the ground the right way.
Yeah, if you were to look around Gator Nation, people with Gator connections, and say who would be a good guy to come in and, as you said, try to get the fundraising aspect going. Freddie's the guy. Let's just put it this way: if the NIL is as successful as that restaurant is, then the Florida NIL will be a Michelin 5-star.
Yes.
I guess that's it. I've never, only Michelin I know are the used Michelins I have on my car. But I hear you, it's very fine restaurants get a Michelin 5-star. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the deal is that they needed somebody to lead them out of the wilderness. This guy took nothing and made it into one of the real great success stories in the restaurateur business. And also, it's a great weapon for the Florida Gators, not being a part of the university, but utilized to its fullest. So I think it's a great move. I'm going to say I'm on full disclosure. I'm a friend and somewhat of a business partner with Freddie, but I couldn't think of a better guy to do this. So tonight, we're going to find out why would he do this with all the other things he's got going on. I mean, Steve Spurrier is a handful by himself, but the restaurant. And I've already gotten a couple of notes from friends, Dr. David Duke. Oh, is he leaving Spurrier's? No, he's not leaving Spurrier's. Let's let him tell the story. So meanwhile, we have just a minute to talk about a couple other things, David, before we get to Freddie and Nate. I love this news here. This is pretty good. Gators fans need a little boost every now and then, some little love. And they asked Brock Purdy, native of Arizona. Did you hear about this?
No.
whether you grew up an Arizona State or Arizona fan. Okay, he said, honestly, neither. I was actually a Florida Gator fan. I love Tim Tebow.
Really?
Yeah, Mike Freddie's
Wow.
having a fantastic year, by the way. So
Yeah. You wonder, Freddie was such a, an obscure, relatively obscure guy in college. You wonder if there was any recruiting contact at any point because I guess he would have come along in I don't even know what the McElwain area or even going back further than that.
I don't know. I have any idea.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, he's a rookie, so you go back so maybe into the Muschamp era, that kind of thing.
Well, Tebow, he was a Tebow fan, so that would have been obviously before he was playing.
Yeah.
Well, listen, on that note, let's switch to the NFL for a moment, since this is, David, Super Bowl week. Let's be honest about that. Fairly good-sized event itself, and I'm not going to be there. You probably aren't either, but a lot of fans are going to be there in a big way financially. Did you see these numbers? Sportsbooks are expecting 67.8 million Americans, adults, to bet on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, legally bet.
Legally bet, yeah.
Right.
Who knows how much there's illegally bet?
But now, it used to be, I would suspect about that many who legally and illegally bet, but now it's just legally bet. And no doubt and I think that, in 2 years, we're going to look back and say, God, I remember when it's just 67 million, now it's 85 million.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think as more and more people become more comfortable with legalized gambling, and it becomes, I guess it's legal in 37 states now, so it'll eventually probably be all 50. I don't know. Utah may forever hold out, given the Mormon influence there, but it's just become a way of life, as it has been for generations in Europe and other places.
But they're playing it right.
Yeah, and they're very good at getting people, I won't say addicted, but intrigued by gambling.
Yeah.
They're making it so easy, and you can bet on virtually anything. I mean, I think they're 40 or 50 at least prop bets just on Taylor Swift. And
on Taylor Swift, yeah.
Yeah, you
how many times is she on camera? Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, listen, which one is your favorite prop bets? I read some on this morning on Shane's show. My favorite one is the color of the Gatorade.
Yeah, that's always a good one.
Yeah,
and I haven't really looked them over yet. I know that the color of the Gatorade thing I was going to do something on the Taylor Swift thing, but then I thought, there's a big segment out there that if they don't read the name Taylor Swift for the next 6 days to kick off, it'll thrill them to no end. And God knows you can get, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting something, some sort of Taylor Swift thing these days. So
what do you think of that story, David? What do you think of that story? Do you find that story? You think it's a good story? You think it's overkill? What do you think it is? All the above.
I'm sorry. I like you froze up on me there, buddy, or else I froze up on you.
Yeah. What do you think of this Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce story and how it's played out?
Yeah, I think it's played out as I'm not buying into the conspiracy theory that the NFL or darker forces are behind this.
No. Oh, I thought sure that you would buy into that.
Yeah, that they're all doing it. That it's a psyop deal, and she's a Pentagon functionary out to throw the election. I don't know. Don't buy that. I think it started innocently enough. If I'm Travis Kelce, why wouldn't you try to hook up with Taylor Swift? And she, I think it's been going long enough to where there's probably a real spark there. And once it what happened since then, the whole celebrity People magazine aspect of this was just inevitable. And I think if you were going to let this bother you, you should have just unplugged the TV because it was going to be good. But I read something interesting that that people who turn on the games, they think, oh, it's nothing but Taylor Swift. I think the New York Times studied the last few games she was on, and she's actually only been on like an average of 25 seconds per game. It's just that people are convinced that every time that there's an incompletion to Kelce, they throw it to her.
Yeah.
And so she's living rent free in America's head.
Yeah, very true. Well, I for one like it. I think it's fun. And I do like Taylor Swift. I don't care about her politics one way or the other.
Yeah.
She's an unbelievably talented woman, great businesswoman, and it's a nice little love story. So what could it hurt?
I mean, it's hard. It's our generation's version of what Joe and Marilyn.
Exactly.
Although
That's
this
a
one
good
is
one. Yes, that's a
this
very
one
good
doesn't
one.
end quite as badly as that one did.
Yes, I remember that. All right, before we switch over to our friends Freddie Wehbe, the new director of revenue, excited to hear what he has to say, and Nate Barbera, the CEO of Florida Victorious. Here's a stat I heard. I can't verify it. I read it. Sounds right. See what you think of this. Since 2003, Florida is 106-29, 106-29 at home. That's good for 13th in the nation. All right. Includes wins over number 7 Utah, number 7 Auburn, number 5 LSU, number 3 Ole Miss, number 4 LSU, number 9 South Carolina, number 4 LSU, and number 5 Tennessee. I think we almost tend to forget those things. There have been some good days in the swamp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do forget about even I don't forget off the top of my head what Billy's record is, but it's pretty good.
Oh yeah,
at the swamp, and hey, that's why they call it the swamp.
That's why they call it the swamp.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Go ahead and talk about our sponsor tonight, and then we should be hearing from Freddie Wehbe momentarily, and we'll get his take on why did Freddie Wehbe take this assignment on that seemingly nobody wanted, and how will he do it? And I want to hear all about his mission. I do have heard a little bit about his plan. It's pretty impressive. I sat down with him for a half hour yesterday. Meanwhile, I'm going to tell you what else is impressive. Titan MRI. It's worth a short drive to Gainesville. No insurance is no problem. You pay with cash or card with same-day scheduling available. So you can start feeling better today. Titan MRI is North Central Florida's premier independent MRI facility. Comes here while hundreds of patients are visiting our Gainesville location from Ocala, Marion County, all around, and the villages. That's TitanMRI.com. Our co-host tonight, as usual on Tuesdays, is David Whitley. He writes a column, a very good one, for the Gainesville Sun. He's also has a really, really nice wry sense of humor. Most of you said you enjoy him, and we enjoy him. David, this is the dead period, they tell me. Isn't tomorrow signing day to come some kind? Then we have right?
Well, yeah, I've lost track. This is, I think, the 4th or 5th signing day that they have now in the NCAA calendar. But this was the one that they used to be the day, of course.
Yeah.
When everybody signed.
Right.
And it was, where futures were made or destroyed for programs. Mm-hmm. But now, basically, it's just the guys who didn't sign in January and were uncommitted. And, Florida, they I guess they have 3 guys coming in that, already here. So it's really a drama-free day. The one good thing is it gets Billy Napier out of the, out from media hibernation. So he's going to come and have a little press conference tomorrow, which is nice.
For sure. All right, coming up in just a second. They're on the screen in the house here almost. Nate Barbera, I think I've got his correct title, CEO of Florida Victorious. I had a nice chat with Nate back at the swamp not long ago. And my man, Freddie Wehbe, who is going to juggle somehow a career in show business, a career in restaurateurs, Steve Spurrier's right-hand man, and now the director of revenue for Florida Victorious. And I think that's welcome news to a lot of people, including Nate, by the way. I'm sure he will also welcome that news. And just a moment, we're ready to go live with him. I think do we have Freddie, or is Freddie? Huh?
Yeah, he's right here.
Okay. Well, then you tell me where to go. You're the director of this show. We have Nate. There's Nate. Good evening, Nate. And now we have. There he is in the dark. He's hanging out in the shadows now, boy. And he's away from that bright lights. And well, too late now, Freddie. You're in the bright lights, pal. Big time. Good evening, Freddie and Nate.
Good evening.
Hello.
Evening.
Thank you for having us.
You bet. Thank you for being on. And Freddie's looking for some light. He's in his car. He's trying to figure this whole thing out. He will. He's a master of communications. Before we get Freddie on full time and somewhere we can see him, Nate, tell us about what's going on and how you all arrived at this decision to name a director of revenue, and how in the world you found this guy.
Well, look, it's been a whirlwind 10 months since we launched Florida Victorious. And as you guys can imagine, any new industry and any new business, we've learned an awful lot. One of the things we learned, fairly quickly out of the gate was that, we we need all of Gator Nation to get involved and to broadly understand who Florida Victorious is, why we exist, why it's important for everyone to get involved. And so as we got underway, we initially were focused on the nonprofit organization, Florida Victorious Foundation. We launched Florida Victorious in April, and then and for the first, call it 6 months, we were really getting our footing, we tried a bunch of different things. Some things went very well, others didn't go as well. And we kind of stepped back right at towards the end of football season and said, you know what, we really need to bring on someone with talent and experience and knowledge of Gator Nation, of how Gainesville works, of marketing, etc. And we quickly came to Freddie. We had met Freddie multiple times before, and we just said, Freddie, you are the guy who can really help us. As you said it right before I was brought in, Freddie's juggling a lot of things, including finding a light, I think. But he juggles a lot, in the world of spurriers and many other things. But it's his experience, his knowledge, his intellect, and his drive that immediately attracted us to him, and his ability to help bring Florida Victorious to the forefront of our customers' minds, and the subscribers, all of Gator Nation, as well as our our corporate sponsors, who we're really focused on building. For this to be a sustainable organization going forward, we need corporate partners who will work with us, who we can create real value for. And that's what Freddie is really tasked with unlocking.
Well, while we're waiting for it, looks like Freddie is in the house now. He hasn't found the lighting, and we'll come right to him. But let me just give him a second to catch his breath and comb his hair. And he's been busy today making hamburgers. And David, my partner, colleague David Whitley, David, jump in there. But anything you want to ask Nate, now we got him pinned against the walls. Let's go for it.
Yeah, Nate, what has this been like for you? Because you were, in a way, you sort of epitomized the NIL deal. You have a different background in some fundraising and other things, but you're about as new to this as NIL was in itself, and I mean it's been an education. I mean, day by day things seem to change. What are some of the things you've learned about this job in the last 10 months?
Well, look, the first thing I learned is that Gator Nation is powerful and large, and it is really, it's very broad and diverse. And so, I've been all over the state and all over many other cities in the country, meeting with Gator fans, working with donors and folks who can help us be successful. And the one thing that has been consistent is that Gator fans want to help us win, right? There's such a fiery passion for success in Gator Nation. And that, is clear as we meet with these folks. So I've learned just kind of how rabid and how excited the fan base is and how engaged they are to support a winning team. And that's what we're here to try to drive, and help support all of Gator athletics in that way, with through our NIL opportunities for our student athletes. The other thing I've learned is that what you might think will happen is okay today, it will not be okay tomorrow, and vice versa. So I've been an entrepreneur in the past. I've had another company that I started, built, and eventually exited. But it's, in most industries, the industry is pretty consistent, but you learn along the way and you have to make adjustments on what works with your customers and what doesn't. In this space, you're not only talking about like having to learn and roll with the punches as an entrepreneur in a new business, but the industry changes every day. And so what we've really tried to do is be as flexible as we can so that we can engage with Gator Nation in many different aspects, including what we're talking about now with Freddie coming on, and corporate sponsors, so that we can roll with the punches, and whatever comes next, we're going to be ready for it. And that's been a really important learning.
That's a good thing to know, being flexible. And he's back now. He's here. He's lit up. He's ready to go. He's got a half a day in. He only worked 12 hours at the restaurant, so he's good for another 8 at least.
At
Freddie
least.
Wehbe. Freddie, how you doing?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much for taking a busy time to get with us on this, because you know how excited I am for you on this. And uh, listen, I admit I'm a big fan of Freddie's. I've seen it in action. I was with him as he got Spurrier's Grand Grill lifted up and built. I sweated everything, not everything, but I saw him build us with in most difficult times when the COVID was upon us, and he did a brilliant job. And the research he did on this restaurant blew me away. I mean, he knew everything about everybody's taste in food, their favorite movies, and the color of their shirts they wore in this area before he launched. And Freddie, that marketing has paid off. Congratulations there. And now, Freddie, why Florida victorious?
Why Florida victorious? That's a good question, buddy. And hello, David and Nate. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm a Gator. I'm a Gator fan. I follow the Gators. We all do. And, for the last 6 months, kind of tinkering with what Florida victorious is, what is NIL, quickly learned, I can help, and I really want to help. And I think the Victorious team is solid. I think the Florida Gators is one of the best programs in the country. The University of Florida, I believe, is in the top 6, 7 now. And why not? And I believe, there's been a gap a little bit. The Victorious, the team did a great job at the beginning telling their story, and I think somehow it dissipated. And that silence kind of led us to the last 3 months of vagueness, and everyone's trying to figure out what is Victorious, what is NIL, why do Gators have to, why do athletes need to get paid, and this and that. And really, it doesn't matter the past. Moving forward, we have an obligation as a Florida Victorious to go out and generate money for the student athlete. That's what the ruling came out a few years back by the Supreme Court. And this is what it is today. As fans, as players, as former coaches, as Gator Nation and all, we have an obligation to embrace what NIL is, play with it as it is, as it pivots, pivot with it, and understand at the end we have to generate money for the student athlete, whether it's donations, whether it's subscriptions, whether it's sponsorship, all added together, that we have to hit some goals and make the student athletes successful and help the coaches win their games. The Florida Victorious has done a great job with the donor base. And now we need to do a little bit better job with the corporate sponsorships. And that's the team I'm leading. I have a solid team behind me to work with Nate and his team. He's built a solid team, and we're going to help and explain to the base throughout the state, throughout the country, why we need some of the corporate sponsorships to be able to help the University of Florida Gator student athlete.
All right. Now I'm going to turn over to my colleague here a minute and let him talk to you and Nate for a second about this. Freddie, you and I have shared a good bit about it. We were fortunate enough to have a little time yesterday. You outlined to me a program which, if you pull it off, will be magnificent. And I think, David, I can speak for you and the media saying we just haven't known enough about Florida Victorious. The previous organization we had a little bit of relationship with. We were able to interview players, talk to them, what have you. And I know that they do it now. I'm not in that loop. But I felt like getting to know the players is important. David, correct me if I'm wrong. I think the fact is we don't know enough about the organization, what it means, what it is, where it's going, and what's happening. It's been kind of quiet. Your 2 cents worth, David, to both Mr. Wehbe and Mr. Barbera.
No, I mean, I think that's true with NIL in general, is that, people don't understand how it works and the intricacies involved. And there's a separation between the university and the NIL, and it's just confusing to the average Joe to sit down and say, how does all this work? And so somebody like Freddie comes and just explain it to him. And I mean, I was interested, you said the corporate aspect, reaching them, how untapped is that market at this point from what you've been able to
it's somehow untapped. It's a little bit here or there, but really, I think if we, as a team, explain and elaborate to what Florida Victorious is, what our goal is, and shout it to all Gator Nation. We have tons of fans out there. We have millions. We have 500,000 alumni. We need to do a better job telling them that. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. It doesn't matter what, who, where. This is not about that. This is moving forward. We need to let folks know exactly what is the Florida Victorious. And once we do that and explain to them the tie-in between what the money they give us and we raise, and not necessarily a donation, we could bring some ROIs to the table. Stay tuned to some great programs coming out. If you have a business in Tampa, Orlando, Miami, Jacksonville, it doesn't matter. And you can benefit from the Florida Victorious tie into some media outlets, and it helps your business, and you're spending that money in different other platforms. All we do is switch in it and help the Florida Victorious win and generate some money that's needed to pay and match other schools so we can win as well.
This is not to downplay what Nate has done and what the organization has done. It's tough out there right now. But a lot of people have a difficult time understanding why Ole Miss has got so much money, as Shane keeps talking about. They have so well-heeled people there. And by Florida, although it seems to have a bigger school with money, doesn't have the same ability to raise money. I don't know why it is. Now, winning is important, and of course, Ole Miss did that last year and will this year. So Shane has a thing of, he says, to get players, you got to win a lot, and you got to give them money, and it's not cheap today. We're talking about the prices I've heard from people just to get a guy to visit to whatever. It's a lot. Now, again, Freddie, you're talking about corporate money, which is a little bit different. But there's a danger in going back to the same people, as there, Nate, all the time to ask for money. After a while, you get that donor fatigue thing going, and you got to see some results. How have you all dealt with that, Nate and Freddie? What do you have planned to help overcome some of that?
Yeah, well, look, buddy, it's a great point. But we work very hard with our donors to help them understand the value of what they're doing, and frankly, the value on our foundation side is twofold. One is, and this is the biggest value. We're making a difference in the community. We are making a real impact out there in the Gainesville community. When we go to the Ronald McDonald House, when we go to the Bread of the Mighty Food Bank, when we go to the St. Francis House, when we go to the Habitat for Humanity, we are really making a difference. I just saw a picture today of Micah Henlockton out at the Ronald McDonald House. You should have seen him standing up next to this little girl. I think she came up to his kneecaps. And the difference that these guys are making out there in the community, working with families that are in need, is really something. It's very special, and it's making a huge impact. So if you're a Gator fan who wants to also become someone who is creating an impact on the community, what better way to do it than this? So that's one way that we manage donor fatigue, when you're seeing a real return on that by helping our community and at the same time helping us win. But the reality is, it is absolutely critical to make this as broad as we possibly can. As Freddie shared and as you shared, buddy, we have a very large state with millions of fans, hundreds of thousands of alumni. And if everybody gets involved doing just what they can, no more, no less, we are very, very difficult to compete with. And so I think we did a good job building out our donor organization, helping create real impact in the community. And where we need to really accelerate our growth is the corporate sponsorships and in our subscription model, where we create value for fans through autograph events, through other events, meet and greets with our players, et cetera, et cetera. We need to create real meaningful value so people join and contribute funds and make it happen.
All right, David, I will let you speak to this. We're going to talk in media group talk here about what we're trying to do to understand what's going on and to be able to process information and as a conduit to the public, which is who you want to reach in different ways. And to do that, the media's got to understand that. I would like to ask both of you, and then David, you chime in, what you plan to do about the gap. I mean, it's nice to come on shows and talk to people, but somehow you have to bridge that gap right now. And what's your idea on your plan? First, Freddie, then Nate, to do that, to bridge that gap so people understand what you're doing, who you are, and why this is worth their money.
That's a good question. And we have a nice plan that's coming very soon. You'll hear more about it. But really, we need to do just like any other successful business organization, you have to build a brand. You have to let your guests, your customers, your fans know what is the business. Our business is to collect money for the student athletes so the programs can be successful. And to do so, it's going to take not just the fans and the former athletes and everyone, it's going to take everyone, including the media, to support with that. We have to do a better job explaining who we are and let people understand what the brand is. What do we do? What's our job? And that's going to be collecting money. It's that simple. I listen to all the shows, including yours, Betty, and there's a little bit of fatigue on what it is. There's a little of silence out there. Our job is to tell people what to do. We're going to have some billboards out. We're going to have some articles out, some write-ups. We're going to visit shows. We will do a better job with our digital campaign, our social media campaign. Our website's going to tell people who we are. We have to shout that out. It's going to take, if every Gator fan supports us, not just financially, just understands what we're doing, we reach our goals and we hit what we need to hit, and we help the program succeed and win. At the end, this is a talent game. The talent's costing money. We have to go out and generate that money. And how do we all embrace that? And it starts with us. It starts as a team. The team has done a fantastic job with a donor base. They've done a great job with the nonprofits. The community embraces them well. Now we need to go out and figure out the missing gaps of buckets that's going to help us generate income.
I was wondering, NIL has come so far so fast that some people are still, anybody who was born really before the year 2005 has just been ingrained to think you don't pay athletes, and that getting them to accept that reality now, has been. I know we get feedback just right in sport, but I can imagine when you're going out and asking them to donate, that it might take still some convincing. And word to use, I think, was embrace the new reality. How much of an aspect of this how much of a challenge is that to get people to realize, hey, you may not like the way things have evolved, but this is the way the game is played now. And if you're going to compete, if you want Florida to be a player in this game, we need your help.
Yeah, and that has been a large part of what we've been doing, educating, and re-educating, because the reality is, to your point, David, that was the past, that there was, pay players equals bad. Today, that is not the case. And it's, in fact, the exact opposite. So there's a lot of re-education. And frankly, it does take time. Like, as much as we want it to move quickly, it takes time. People have to get there at their own pace. We're not going to pressure anybody into doing something that they don't want to do, and we shouldn't do that anyway. So it just takes time for people to understand that this is the way the game is played today. And if we care about winning, which we all do, then we have to play the game. And by the way, if we're going to play the game, let's play it better than anybody else. Let's play it to win. Let's not play it to be mediocre. Let's play it to win and win big. That's what we need to do.
A couple of comments from people out my way. I spend part of my time, as you might know, out in Northwest Florida. And the fine city that I'm in now is actually St. Andrew, which is around the bay there. But that's Panama City. David Orenoff is a loyal fan, a physician in that area out there, very much committed to what he does to the Gators. He asked a question, Freddie, of you. The university needs to be behind us, the fans and alumni of the university. They totally failed, in my opinion. Freddie, Nate, what's your opinion on that?
So I'll take that one. Look, buddy, what I would say to David, the university has done everything they can. We work closely with them to try to working with them within these rules that we have, knowing that the rules change, the guidelines change, et cetera. It's a difficult place to play. I mean, if you just kind of step back and realize where we were 2 years ago to where we are today, how many times the guidelines have changed, how many times the rules have changed. We're trying to fight. We're playing with a moving target here, and so we work closely with the athletic department as closely as we're able to, and they work with us to the extent that they're able to provide support.
Okay. By the way, another guy that just checked in, you might know who this is, Freddie, Jay Moody, who says this guy is making it happen. Where have we heard that before? Freddie has an agency called Making It Happen, and Jay Moody is the son-in-law of Steve Spurrier. So that. Also, David has a question. He says, right now, how much have the University of Florida donated? How much have you donated? He said to University of Florida versus Harvard.
Well, let me tell you this. I've donated far more to the University of Florida than I have to Harvard. I will be very clear about that. So that's this is. I did get a degree from Harvard. I have a very fond memories of that experience there. But my heart is with UF these days.
Yeah, Harvard Florida has a nice endowment, but nothing compares to Harvard's endowment. So they
I think you're right there.
Yeah. When it comes to that, of course, Harvard isn't in this conversation, but from a competitive standpoint with the other the big time schools, which Florida is, you hear numbers thrown around, and like Ohio State said, well, they raised $10 million for their most recent class. I know you can't put figures on this kind of thing, but is Florida in that position now to be competitive with anybody? And it's not just the numbers. Like you said, Mississippi has 6,000 people, but it's how deep their pockets are too. I mean, is Florida right now able to? I mean, if Billy Napier needed, is he in the position where he says, we'll never lose a recruit due to an NIL shortage?
So first of all, David, we have to be really clear here. We don't talk to players until they
right. There's that wall of separate. I understand.
Yeah. There are rules in place. What we can do is we can educate our current student athletes on the opportunities, give them opportunities, and then those current athletes are the best salespeople to the prospects, right? Because when they ask them, are they being taken care of? Does the collective do they follow through with everything that they've promised? The answer is always yes. We have very strong relationships, and I will tell you that we are competitive. Are we at the very top? No, we're not at the top, and that's part of the reason why we are driving forward here with Freddie and making these additions and pushing hard in other areas. But we are absolutely competitive in the NIL space. This is the space is changing every single day, but we are very competitive. The reality is Coach Napier got here a couple of years ago, and as you guys have seen, he's turned over almost the entire roster in 2 short years. We have a very young but very talented team that's come in. He's rebuilt the roster from the ground up, and we're excited about where the future is going to go. And I would say that NIL is an important piece of building a team these days. It's not the only piece, but we're absolutely competitive.
Yeah, I should have stressed that in case there are any NCAA investigators watching this show that I didn't want to intimate that there's direct contact between NIL and Billy Napier, because of course we could do an entire series of shows on where that part of the NIL is going, with these court cases that have been evolving even the last week with Tennessee and Virginia and all that.
So much change, much change happening.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's a moving target out there, and
it really is.
And you better remain flexible. So when will we see? What's the first thing we'll see, Freddie? From your what input? What's the first thing we say? Well, that has Freddie Wehbe's fingerprints on it coming up.
We are rolling out our billboard campaign throughout the state. We are targeting where Gator fans live in the big markets. You'll see that hopefully in the next 2 weeks. Working on a media day, we'd like to invite you and your colleagues to explain really our goals to why corporate sponsorship is an essential piece, and get that message out to the business world in the whole state of Florida and where Gator Nation lives. And there'll be a lot more components from social media to digital stuff, and this is all should be rolling out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I would say in the next 10 weeks before the spring game, I believe our brand will be much stronger, our message will be stronger. And again, it doesn't matter what the past was or what the definition of NIL is today and the level of it. We have to do a better job explaining our goals and the why of our goals. And, things will change. The NIL system, the collective will change. Things are not going to be the same next month, next year, and 2 years. And whatever that is, we will change and pivot with it. The one thing that will not change is we're going to need money. And we're going to need a lot of money to drive winning. And this is our goal as the Florida Victorious. We're a collective of money. That's what collective is. You collect money. NIL is truly name, image, and likeness. But a collectivist is to collect money to drive that to the student athlete.
Well, in every business I've ever been involved in, including this one, including the radio business, my own radio station, it's asking for the check. It's hard, Freddie. You do it well, and I know Nate has done it well. And I think I don't know what it takes. It takes a special charm to do that, I guess. But I think that there is an appeal out there. The problem we have is just the issue of the people holding on to the idea, which David and I do, and so does Lauren Meadows, who will join us in a minute, that this is somehow still a pure sport, but that it hadn't been sullied by the money. And that's a tough one, I know. How can you all soften that blow, turn it into something that's more about generosity and giving back as opposed to paying players, which is what it is? What can you guys do to help bridge that gap?
Well, I mean, look, buddy, I think that's what excites me about the model that we've employed to date. I mean, the Florida Victorious Foundation is about compensating players to make a difference in the community, to have an impact. I mean, we go out. We were at the groundbreaking for a new home for Habitat for Humanity last week. We've seen multiple houses get built from beginning to end, and we've had a hand in building them. There was one social media post in the month, one of the months this fall. 50% of the traffic to the website for the Habitat for Humanity that entire month. One post from Grand March, and talk about an impact that we can make. We have over 1 million followers across all of our social media channels, and we are hitting them monthly, hitting them weekly with commentary around the importance of working with these charities, of supporting the people who are doing great work in our community to lift up those who are in need. We're also helping educate our young people who are going out there, spending time with the less fortunate. They're going out and coming back better because they have the experience, realizing that there's so many people that don't have everything, that don't have what they need. And so how can we take this situation of compensating student athletes and turn it into a massive net positive for our community? That's what I believe Florida Victorious Foundation is doing. And that's what it excites me. It's such a positive thing for our community. It's a positive thing for our student athletes. It's a positive all the way around.
All right, before that, say goodnight to David. He has his contract. If he goes past 45 minutes, I have to pay him double. That means more cookies and milk than he normally gets for his
They're not Spurrier cookies either.
That's right. The juries. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to do, before we let you go, just wanted to add one more thing. There's still a lot of people like the guy with Lenny Thompson who's mad and angry about what happened on the field. And that's one you have to overcome. The second thing is that David Baldoff makes a good question. Freddie, would you be available to speak at various quarterback clubs in the area?
I would love to. We need to send a message out, and any opportunity we get, we're going to do so. We're going to be very visible. We're going to be very loud. We have to do this together. This is everyone that's called a fan. Anyone that can define himself as a fan has an obligation to help the Florida Victorious. Whether it's $10 a month, $25 a month, or $0 a month. We need to be all together to embrace this. If we want to win, there is no other route to winning. Okay? This is not going to be an easy task, buddy. You asked that question earlier, but it's very simple. And any successful business, organization, any championship team out there is built the same way we are. We have good people. We have a staff of 11 that they all know what they're doing. There's a community component to this. There's a nonprofit component to this. There is sports to win to this. However you look at it, we have to embrace this.
Freddie, it's just all garble. Something happened there. Well, it's on our end or whatever, but hang on a second. All right, let me say goodnight to David. David, if you have any questions, go ahead before. And if you guys wouldn't mind hanging, Nate, you and Freddie for a couple more minutes. Lauren Meadows is waiting around. David?
No, I'm saving the rest of my questions for when I meet with Freddie and maybe Nate next week. And we
You're
work
not
on this.
sharing your questions,
Yeah.
but I'm sharing mine to you. I get it. Okay.
No, they I think this is a great step that they're going out and putting, a connecting with fans, because most fans, they just hear NIL and they need a face behind it and something tangible to say. And I think that this is a good good move on everybody's part, just to reach out and just to get the message out. Because
but can they get Taylor Swift?
well, you do. I think your worries are over. Yeah, you'll be laughing at Ohio State's NIL at that point.
Great, David Whitley, columnist of the Gainesville Sun. David, good night. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you,
that.
David.
Let's go get Lauren Meadows. Can you guys hang for a second?
Yeah,
Nate,
absolutely.
There's your man. You know where he's been tonight. He's been at your restaurant, Freddie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How you guys doing?
Freddie, you got something going on with your audio.
Yeah, once you hang, Freddie, you need to hang up and get back on. Probably, we'll do that. So, something in those little gremlins got in that audio and made funny noises.
I saw a comment, Georgia cyber attack. That might be what it is.
Yeah, no doubt about it, for sure. This guy up here has done a yeoman job, I think, for a lot of people. Lauren has, for us especially. I'm not sure if you and Nate have met or not. I know you and Freddie are good friends. I'll give him a chance while we're trying to get Freddie back to go ahead and exchange thoughts. Lauren, Freddie Wehbe, as you know, there's Freddie, is the new director of revenue. What does that mean? You get to take the money home with you every night, put it in your bag? I don't know. And I think it's good news, Lauren, about things we've been discussing regarding NIL.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, we all know Freddie and Nate, and I think since Nate has come on, and obviously bringing Freddie on,
Lauren, I think your mic might be off or whatever. We're not hearing you. So.
Is my mic off? Hello?
We're not hearing you.
You can hear me?
got you, Lauren.
A little better.
Okay.
You got me now? You're a little too far away from it. Anyway, this is kind of weak.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. There you go. Go.
All right. So, but no, I think that, it definitely gets, having Freddie involved. And this is something we talked about on the show a few years back, a few months back, as this thing evolves, having your local business leaders, somebody who can reach out to different corporations, things like that. This is really going to allow, as NIL evolves and those kind of things, it's going to really allow, people to really understand how this thing works and how particularly the Gator Collective are enhancing the experience, the college experience for all the student athletes, getting them involved in the community and things like that. And I think that's the spirit of NIL in a lot of ways. I know sometimes people confuse NIL with admission policies and things like that. And I got news for you. I mean, I understand that a lot of people are upset that their kid didn't get into Florida, but, unfortunately, your kid doesn't run a 4.4 and jump 36 inches. I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, I wouldn't have gone to Ohio Northern probably if I, didn't run a 4.57 and could jump 27 inches. But anyway, I mean, that's neither here nor there. And using that as a reason not to get involved in the Florida Victorious and the collectives and be involved in NIL, that's really not a reason, because every student, whether they go to Florida, USF, the normal student can go out, make money based upon their name, image, likeness, their skills, things like that. And Florida Victorious is actually allowing these young men and women to use their skills to basically enhance the lives of others in a lot of times. And, so to be involved in that, I think it is noble. And, it's one of those things where if it's pay to play, that's another school's problem. The thing that Florida has always prided itself on is doing things, particularly athletically and academically, the right way. And I think Florida Victorious is keeping with that spirit. So, it still is allowed the young men and women to go out and do their own thing. But if you're part of Florida Victorious, there are certain things that are in place. And I think by adding Freddie, getting corporations involved, getting those people that may not understand the total process, bringing them into the fold, explaining to them the mission of Florida Victorious is going to be huge. And this thing is still new. I mean, that's the thing. In defense of all the collectives throughout the country. This thing is still new. It's not fluid, and it's a work in progress. I mean, should they, how many times did they changed the Constitution and they still ain't got it right? So I mean, these things take time, and this is totally new to what's going on. So I mean, the more people you get involved, you keep Lauren. I mean, you keep Freddie and people involved at the local level. Gainesville is a town that truly loves the Gators, and you got about a handful of people really involved. This is going to allow the masses to truly come in, understand, create opportunities, and it's going to benefit everybody. I think everybody looks at it just like a football thing, but it's really helping the entire, all of the athletes that are involved in Florida.
Well, and let me add one thing, Lauren. I think you bring up a really good point. One of the things that we've learned through this is that we have such an opportunity to continue the education of student athletes through this work, right? We have financial literacy work with our student athletes to help them more responsibly spend, save, and allocate the funding that they receive, the compensation that they receive. We also have been teaching them on-the-job training skills, right? So for many of these student athletes, it's their first real job. So when they go to a charity, if they're more than 5 minutes late, they get a warning. If they have if they don't wear the appropriate attire, they get a warning. If they do the same thing twice, they get their compensation docked. If they come to work with a bad attitude when they're supposed to be raising up the attitudes of others, guess what? You get a warning and you get docked. If you're on your phone, well, you should be paying attention to your work. Well, guess what? That doesn't work either. This is on-the-job training and learnings. Plus, as we get out into the corporate world, we start doing appearances and we have conversations on social media, things like that. We've had players come back to us and say, man, I loved that. I don't think I'm that good, though. Can you help me? Can you get me someone who can teach me how to do this better? I really want to get good at this. I see my career in broadcast media. I really want to get better. Can you help us with this? This is opening these avenues to help educate our student athletes, to help them pick their careers potentially, to help them become better at whatever they end up doing if beyond sports. And so these are side benefits that, walking in, I wasn't really expecting, but it is really making a difference with our student athletes, continuing their education in an on-the-job training sort of way.
Well said, and I want to jump in.
Let me
pay a bill, Lauren, first.
Okay, go ahead.
Then we have to get the bill paid, and we know about money. And I want to just say how much I appreciate.
I got something to.
Okay, definitely. You'll have time. We'll take your check too, by the way. And I want to just say thank you to one of my main sponsors, Meldon Law, who've been with me now for several years, and not just for what they do for this show, but they do for the community, and they do for the University of Florida as a big-time partner and sponsorship of things like games and events and giveaway tickets. And Jeffrey's a personal friend of mine. He cares a lot about the Gators, and Freddie, you know him well. He does things beyond, way above what anybody should do, not just the money, but being there and supporting the program. So I know I appreciate Jeffrey, what he does here, what he does as a Gator, what he does as an attorney, what he does as a friend. So rather than reading a commercial, let me just say I endorse Meldon Law, where they don't back down, and I endorse my friend, the chief attorney, Jeffrey Meldon over there. Thank you for what he does, and thanks for supporting the program. Meldon Law, they won't back down. All right, Lauren, get your word in there.
Well, in defense of NIL, and like I said, people like Freddie and Nate are really trying to do things the right way. Here's the simple plan. You got a football player. He comes to school. He's on full scholarship. Up until 2 years ago, if he was great at telling jokes or making pies or anything, he would have to forfeit that full scholarship in order to sell those pies. Think about that. Now you got the average student, so it's not about paying them to play a game, because you could have average student at the University of Florida on a full ride for academics, and he can go out, sell T-shirts, sell cars, do anything he wanted to do. These young men were not allowed to have, young men and women were not allowed to have jobs. They were not allowed to receive compensation in any way. They couldn't go to Spurrier's and get a free hot dog. Nothing. That's wrong. So everybody that has this idea about because it's football or sports, this American way that we all talk about is the responsibility of these young men and women to do a job and get paid for it. Here they're doing.
Wait, do they have hot dogs at Spurrier's? I don't know.
Yeah, they do actually. but so the kids menu. But I'm saying the point is it's you got it. People have to get away from it's not the way that it used to be. Yes, the game is still pure. It's 53 and a third wide, 100 yards long. But this is the new normal. And what Nate and Freddie are doing is going to be extremely responsible. It's going to be fluid. They're going to get everybody involved so everybody can be a part of it. And I think that's what this is about. I mean, outside of that, what other schools do, if you want to call it pay to play, that's fine. But no matter what it is, these young men and women nobody talks about the gymnast from LSU that has 3 million followers. It's the exact same thing, but because it's football, and for so long we thought a scholarship, a fruit punch, a hot dog, and a warm-up suit was enough. It's not like that anymore, and that's just the reality of it.
Good point. These gentlemen are getting tired. I'm sure they had a long day, and I don't want to keep them much longer. But other than writing a check, which is the obvious way, just give me 15 or 20 seconds of what people who care about the Gators should do, besides give money, which is where you start. That is the name of this game. Nate, what can they do to show support of what you're doing and what the University of Florida is doing and the athletic programs, besides give money?
Listen, talk, share, build engagement. It is, we are only as good as the next conversation, right? So when you go to a basketball game and you go to the O-Dome, talk to people about it. What Florida Victorious is doing has an impact on the outcomes of these games in the O-Dome. Like, have a conversation. Say, we all, first, give money if you can. To spread the word. That's it. If you can spread the word and you can support that alone will really help us support the Gators.
Pass their offering plate. All right, Freddie, go.
Appreciate the Florida Victorious. Appreciate the brand. Appreciate what we do. 90% of people really don't know what we do, and we're going to tell them what we do. We're making student athletes better leaders, future leaders in our business community, in our world. These athletes, the skills like Nate mentioned, the skills they're learning is absolutely amazing. The leadership skills. They come to University of Florida, one of the best educational schools in the country, the best in the state, number one. And they're going to get a great education, but they also are learning skills from the Florida Victorious that we're providing and we are funding, and appreciate who we are. Appreciate the Florida Victorious brand. The days of not knowing what NIL and what Florida Victorious is are done. We have a duty together as fans and the entire state to let people know what Florida Victorious is. And if you ask me one thing, outside the money, appreciate what we are driving for the University of Florida.
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. Go ahead.
Let me jump in. I just saw a comment or question. Can you donate to a specific sport?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the answer is yes. So on our nonprofit foundation, you can designate funds to any of our 21 sports. On the you can also make a one-time contribution to any specific sport that you would prefer. So yes, the answer is absolutely. Pick your sport, and we'd be happy to accept that.
Give your website again.
www.floridavictorious.com. We work today with 11 of our 21 sports and over 200 of our 500 student athletes. So we're not there yet. Our goal is to get to all 500, but this is not just a football thing by any stretch. We're halfway to our goal of working with every single student athlete at the University of Florida.
I know Lauren shares my view on this, and without being a total homer, it's good to be able to hear talk about NIL and money without feeling like you're depressed about it. Like something is finally being done. Not that you guys didn't do it before, but you got the right guy here to do. I know some of the things he got planned, and knowing what he did to start Spurrier's Grind Grill, the effort he put in, and the money, uh, he's the best. So good luck in your new position. Freddie will be seeing you soon, and we'll be seeing you soon in Spurrier's Grind Grill. Hopefully, first week of April for a special event involving the two greatest coaches in University of Florida history. You know what I'm talking about. Nate, much luck to you. Thank you for sharing. Let's do this again, gentlemen.
Let's do
absolutely.
And Lauren, thank you for the preaching of the right words. What you said is right on point. Everything but the hot dog was exactly right on point.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
That's
Freddie.
for the kiddies, Freddie. You know how it is.
Yeah. All right, Lauren, I'll give you about 60 seconds to wrap up the show and the point of view and where we are now today and where we're going in this thing called football.
I mean, as far as football is concerned, I mean, there's a lot of levers and pulleys that go on with this thing, and the next thing, I don't think there's going to be much with recruiting, so we'll kind of ease into in the spring ball, and but the one thing I will say, and if you and I both know, we took the initial tour at Spurrier's. And the research and the market research that had been done, and like you said, understanding just how this thing works. I don't think Freddie would be involved if it wasn't going to be something that I really thought that he had done his research on. I think it's going to be a lot more metrics in play that are going to allow this thing to really include everybody, and it's going to take time. But I ask people to just kind of take football and this whole pay to play away and just ultimately think of the athletic community as a whole. And I think if you look at it that way and you embrace particularly some of your non-revenue sports and things like that, and I know we got some people on here, Dan and others, that really do embrace some of those. If you really look at it that way and look at it as a true collective, I think it'll work out, but it's going to take, it's a long way to go. And
all right, excellent. And we'll keep your trivia till next week. That'll hold for a week, and appreciate it very much. Lauren Meadows, Coach Meadows. Talk to you again on Thursday, Lauren. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hopefully it comes after a win against Auburn, so it'll be relevant.
Sounds good. I want to say thank you to Lauren, and thank you to David. Thank you to our special guest, Nate Barbera, CEO, and Freddie Wehbe, the Director of Revenue of Florida Victorious. I want to thank our sponsors, of course, Meldon Law, and the folks at Renstar, and also our friends at TitanMRI.com. Speaking of Renstar, they've been supporting this program for a long time. We're really grateful for what they do, not just for us, but for the community. They're always looking out for a better way to serve us in terms of our health. And one of the things they do, they have a high-quality, patient-centered clinical research facility right here, and they have cutting-edge clinical research trials quite often on things like Alzheimer's, psoriasis, dementia, osteoarthritis, etc. And they do look into the conditions that affect our community. So they've been doing this a long time, since 1998, more than 700 clinical research trials, and they continue to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies. That's Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. My partner off camera tonight, working hard. Brendan, good job. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Back tomorrow night, we'll have Sweet and Sour. David Nally will be here. Plus, Chris Storing will join us.
And make sure you hit the subscribe button. You never say that.
Okay, do what he said.
Smash the subscribe button.
Smash the subscribe button. All right, smash it, folks. Thank you. Good night.